Okay, I think, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar on the Netherlands Digitalisation Solutions Fit for the Future and its role as gateway to Europe. It is my pleasure to inform you of some housekeeping rules. For the participants who are joining us in this webinar, thank you very much for your presence. But please note that the webinar will be recorded. We encourage you also to put up your questions to the speakers, and you can do so via your screen below. Okay. So without any further delay, allow me to now invite Mr. Douglas Fu, President of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, to give his welcome address. Mr. Fu, please.
Thank you, Emily. Her Excellency Masih Fono, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands to Singapore, distinguished speakers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good day to all. I'm honored to be here today in my capacity as the President of Singapore Manufacturing Federation, or SMF for short, to give the welcome address at this webinar, which is jointly organized by the SMF together with one of associated services, Enterprise Europe Network, or EEN, Singapore, as well as the Royal Netherlands Embassy in Singapore and the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency. To begin, allow me to extend my gratitude to Her Excellency Ambassador Masid Fono for gracing us with her presence at today's webinar. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, it is a pleasure to have you with us today. Your presence here today is a clear reflection of the excellent relations between Singapore and Netherlands, and more importantly, of the close friendship with SMF has built with you and your embassy as a result of your commitment of support to SMF. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your support and friendship. Let me begin by providing a brief introduction of the SMF. The SMF was established in 1932, and we are one of the oldest trade federations in Singapore. Currently, we have over 5,000 member companies comprising MNCs, SMEs, and local companies in Singapore. SMF member companies represent the entire spectrum of industries of Singapore's manufacturing sector, including electrical and electronics, ICT, building products and construction materials, energy and chemicals, food and beverages, medical technology, pharmaceuticals, machinery and engineering, and other clusters of Singapore's manufacturing ecosystem. As the advocate for the Singapore manufacturing community, SMF seeks to further the manufacturing sector's growth and facilitate its competitiveness and sustainability. In this regard, the SMF regularly organizes activities such as industry-led webinars, networking events, ministerial dialogue sessions, workshops, local and overseas exhibitions, along with offering a host of comprehensive and focused services that benefit our members and, by extension, the manufacturing community in Singapore. Besides organizing various activities for our members, SMF has always been proactive in encouraging our member enterprise to look beyond the Singapore market and seek new business opportunities in investments and partnerships overseas, particularly in the EU countries through the SMF Enterprise Europe Network Singapore office. Since its launch in 2015, the SMF's EEN Singapore has been creating opportunities for Singapore companies to expand their business to Europe for investments and trade, as well as to set up new supply chains through various customized and cluster business matching with companies in Europe. It is my pleasure to report that since its inception in 2015, SMF EEN Singapore office has held over 5,000 EU-Singapore EEN brokerage meetings and organized more than 80 EEN brokerage events. It also has more than 2,000 Singapore companies in its database, with some 2,400 expressions of interest from European companies, including from Netherlands. EEN Singapore has also succeeded to facilitate over 100 partnership agreements signed between Singapore and European companies, mainly which are Netherlands enterprises in the areas of collaboration in business, innovation, digitalization, and technology. Without doubt, Netherlands is one of the leading countries in EU where our Singapore enterprises would like to invest and connect to do business in EU. Since the implementation of safety restrictions due to COVID-19, SMF and EEN Singapore have shifted most of our activities onto the online sphere, hosting cross-border webinars and online industry-based business matching sessions between Singapore and EU companies. A successful online event that EEN Singapore organized was a technological pitching and business matching session between the Dutch and Singaporean companies to promote Singapore companies to collaborate with Netherlands companies in partnerships relating to innovations and technologies. These are areas where Dutch companies are renowned for, and I'm happy to know that today's webinar will be leveraging on Netherlands' expertise in the areas of digitalization, innovations, and technologies. Going forward, the EEN Singapore will continue in our efforts to encourage our Singapore enterprises, especially the SMEs, to collaborate in the areas of innovation with EU companies, particularly those from Netherlands. Allow me now to share with you on a passionate subject of mine, namely the Singapore's manufacturing landscape. Even though Singapore has limited landmass to build industrial plants, it has a robust manufacturing sector that contributes about 21% or around 106 billion Singapore dollars of Singapore's total GDP. Our manufacturing sector is one of the few exceptions, together with Japan, Korea, and Germany, that has maintained or grown the sector to contribute 1/5 of our nation's GDP during the challenging COVID-19 period last year. Against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, Singapore's manufacturing sector has remained surprisingly resilient and continues to report positive growth, with manufacturing output increasing by 7.3% last year. In fact, in a recent monthly manufacturing performance report, Singapore manufacturing output increased 11.2% on a year-on-year basis, with most of the clusters, namely precision engineering, transport engineering, general manufacturing, chemicals, electronics, recording output growth. Indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has emphasized the importance of digital and technological transformation in enabling companies to overcome the economic challenges arising from COVID-19 pandemic. To accelerate and beef up economic transformation, the Singapore government has announced a 10-year plan earlier this year, which aims to make Singapore a global business, innovation, and talent hub for advanced manufacturing. Specifically, the plan calls for Singapore's manufacturing sector to grow by 50% within the next 10 years. With this 10-year plan, Singapore's manufacturing sector is poised to become even more dynamic, with an educated and readily skilled workforce and nurturing more resilient and agile manufacturing enterprises. As a partner in Singapore's nation building, the SMF is proud to participate and play the role of catalyst to help Singapore's manufacturing sector to achieve the target set in the 10-year plan. Netherlands and Singapore have long-standing economic ties, having established diplomatic relations soon after our independence in 1965. We have much in common, as we both have thriving, open economies and key gateways to the regions we serve. One noteworthy mention is the Netherlands' position as the fourth largest investor in Singapore's foreign direct investment stock in 2019. In turn, Singapore has invested more than 18 billion in the Netherlands. Singapore and Netherlands are also partners in the EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, or EU-SFTA, which is a mega free trade agreement that is already in force and which will improve market access for both nations. It is noteworthy to know that even before the establishment of the EU-SFTA, there are nearly 3,000 Dutch companies that have exported several goods and services to Singapore. With the implementation of EU-SFTA, I am certain that economic ties between Netherlands and Singapore will be further strengthened and enhanced for both nations. Indeed, it is my honor and pleasure to be at this webinar, which I believe will provide insights into the opportunities for Singapore companies to strengthen business partnerships with Netherlands enterprises and to grow together for the EU and the ASEAN markets. Such collaborations will facilitate better management of talents, resources, capital, and enable Netherlands and Singapore enterprises to ride on each other's advantages, as well as learn from each other's experience and knowledge to grow the global markets. I'm confident that today's webinar will be the start of closer and better relations between Netherlands and Singapore at enterprises and people-to-people level. I assure Ambassador, as well as our core organizers and all of you present here today, that the Singapore Manufacturing Federation is committed to help to build closer bilateral business relations between our two countries and to continue to engage with partners and stakeholders to facilitate Netherlands and Singapore enterprises to do business together. If SMF can be of service to you, please do not hesitate to contact our team at SMF. My sincere gratitude goes out to Ambassador Masih Fono and her team in the Royal Netherlands Embassy, as well as to all co-organizers and to the distinguished speakers for their support and collaboration for this webinar. Stay healthy and well. Thank you very much. Emmeline, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Fu. It is now my pleasure to invite Her Excellency Margaret Vono, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands to Singapore, to come and give her opening address. Indeed, the organizers, especially the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, we are very grateful that Ambassador has taken her time from her busy schedule to come and give her sharing on how Singapore and Netherlands can further work together. Ambassador, please.
Thank you, Emmeline. Mr. Douglas Fu, President of the Singapore Manufacturing Association. I'm really happy that I can join you here this afternoon. And I do have more time, actually, since I was able, together with some friends and allies, to secure the vaccinated travel lane for the Netherlands. So I hope you, as businesses, will reap the benefits of that and fly in and out with your engineers from next week onwards, because that's what I told EDB was one of the reasons that we wanted to stay connected. And Mr. Fu, congratulations on your re-election as president of SMF. We are very pleased ourselves that we can continue working with you and with your excellent team, because in the end, it's all about people. And I'm also very pleased that I have 3 representatives of 3 companies that I know quite well and I'm very impressed with, who will later give you more details about their work on digitization, digital twins, a lot of digital solutions. But before we go so, and I would like to thank Adeline Tan from the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency, who also could attract a lot of Singaporeans to actually live in the Netherlands and not just work with the Netherlands like on this webinar. We have lots to offer. But I'd like to go back in time to Mr. Albert Winsemius. Mr. Albert Winsemius was a well-known advisor to Singapore. We will have a book about his life published beginning of next year, and I'm really looking forward to it because I think he deserves a book about his life and what he's done for Singapore and the Netherlands. But there's a quote of him that I think is very apt in this time of the pandemic era where we live in. He once told an audience of Singaporeans, "You are the one-eyed people." And he explained, actually, you maybe feel like you're living in times where everybody feels blind. You're insecure, you don't know what's happening, you don't have all the facts and data at hand, but this is the new normal. That was in the 60s, what he told, but I think it's now even more of a new normal. So he urged everybody, just with one eye, even if you're squeezing a little bit, just enter the next phase, because then you have a competitive edge. And I think that's very, very apt to use that here in these times where we have a lot of insecurity, but we also see a lot of opportunities, especially in this digital era. And I know that the Netherlands and Singapore work quite well together also on the business side. Although we're 10,000 kilometers apart, there's something in the way we think we do business which makes it easy. Maybe it's because we both like good food, we have meetings in restaurants, then we go and sit one-on-one, and we're both very honest. We say no when we mean we don't like it, but we also go with solutions. And I think that's one of the reasons that Singapore sees the Netherlands as the gateway to Europe. It's not just our connectivity with the harbor, with Schiphol Airport, it's also the connectivity of minds. Maybe that's one of the reasons that currently in Dubai at the World Expo, Singapore and the Netherlands are actual neighbors, not 10,000 kilometers apart, but really right next to each other. And we planned it that way. Why? Because both our pavilions are geared towards the future, towards innovation, towards digital skills, also towards sustainability and finding new solutions together. And I think it's a very strong message where we see that the world is checking Singapore next to the Netherlands and see that there's so much combined in both countries. And what I like being an ambassador here, also on the business side, that it's a win-win for parties involved. It's not just one party wagging the little finger or another one insecure and one who has all the data. I think that's the strength, what we're doing here now. We try to get people together and have mutual profits. I really believe it's the win-win that we are aiming for because we are here for the long haul. The Dutch have been in Singapore for a very, very long time. We were, like the president said, one of the first to recognize Singapore and actually it was a very wise decision. That's why I live in a residence, which is a very good investment, because we bought it in 1947. We recognized Singapore in 1965, and we've been here ever since, growing our friendship, growing our investments, and growing the opportunities. So let me stop here, because I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the companies, and I'm sure that this will be the start of new connectivity and new endeavors. Thank you.
Lynn, you're on mute.
Very much, Ambassador. We appreciate your coming here to give us the opening address. Right now, let me start by inviting the specialist expert to now come and speak on this subject of digitalization. First and foremost, may I invite Mr. Peter Stolet, Vice President of APAC Digitalisation Solutions, to come and talk about this supply chain challenges in the manufacturing scenario. And as we all know, because of COVID, many of the manufacturing supply chains that our investors have put in worldwide have been disrupted. So let's hear from Peter on his solutions. Peter, please.
Thank you, Emmeline, for the introduction. It's great to be here. Thanks all for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. Douglas Fu, for sketching the broader manufacturing landscape of Singapore, and also thank you, Ambassador, for the nice words and all the hard work you and the embassy have been doing in the last weeks and months to arrange for Dutch people to go to Europe, to go to the home country, to see family and friends, but also to allow our colleagues based in the Netherlands to come to Singapore to support in the current projects, because we can do all the things virtual, but we also very much appreciate, and we know the value of having a face-to-face conversation. So thanks a lot. I will try to share some screens, and we have quite a busy agenda for today. Let me first. Okay. Yes. So my name is Peter Stolte, and I'm responsible for the business development and project delivery in Asia Pacific for Districon. In the next 15 minutes, I would like to discuss the current supply chain challenges, the actions to take, and also how supply chain analytics can help. And furthermore, I also would like to try to show three use cases we've worked on in recent years. So it's a lot in 50 minutes. Sometimes it might be that I'm going maybe a bit too fast, but at the end there is a Q&A session. So if there are any questions, please then reach out. Districon is a Dutch company. We are a supply chain and logistics consulting firm, providing advisory and software solutions services, which we develop fit for purpose. And we have more than 45 years of experience within the supply chain and logistics industry, with the last 10 years having a strong focus on using advanced analytics in our projects to help our clients. So our headquarters are in the Netherlands, and we have in Singapore an entity now for over 3 years now. And well, for example, recent projects we've done here in Singapore are for the EDB, the Economic Development Board, Changi, and SATS, and for many other global manufacturing companies, being active in food and beverage, heavy industry, but also in the fashion industry. So I think the Smes also have like so many clients being active in so many different industries. So hopefully in the next 15 minutes, we can share something of our experience that is valuable and interesting for some of you. At least that's our goal of today. So when I started my working career over 10 years now ago as a fresh graduate at a supply chain and logistics advisory firm, I could never imagine that one day the news headlines would be dominated by the current challenges we are seeing in these supply chains. Almost everything that is vital for delivering a finished product to customers is experiencing shortages, semiconductors, raw materials, shipping containers, we see the port capacities, warehouse spaces, etc., etc. And at the same time, consumers are getting more and more demanding. Their request for faster deliveries and their request for more sustainable supply chains. And then, of course, we see, the shortage of containers and record high container rates. We see the rates going from $1,500 now. Sometimes we see rates of $20,000. This is not all new for you, of course, and we now clearly see the ripple effect. Well, from manufacturing having short-term shutdowns caused by the pandemic, causing these shortages and price increases. However, it's not only COVID-19 that is causing these the recent shortages. I think that is very good to realize, because over the last years, product portfolios and offerings have exploded in size and in complexity. Production and supply networks have become increasingly complex. External pressures, including regulations, trade barriers, have intensified, and multiple stakeholders are demanding a more sustainable supply chain and to promote sustainability. And actually, the end is not in sight yet, so it's not expected everything will be solved when the pandemic ends. So, or to solve itself in the next months. It is expected to last for years. So, action is required, and things have to be done. Things have to be done in different way. For years, supply chains have focused on reducing inventory levels and cutting costs by embracing a lean, just-in-time management in their logistics plans. The US-China trade war and the current supply and demand shocks brought by the pandemic clearly exposed the gaps or weaknesses in the production strategies and the supply chains. It forces manufacturers everywhere, small, large, all over the world, in every country, to reassess the supply chains in every industry. Manufacturers will face pressure on de-risking supply chains or making it more resilient without sacrificing competitiveness. I already heard the resilient in Mr. Douglas' introductory speech. It's now all over the world. It's all about being resilient, building resilience. But what do we actually understand under a resilient supply chain? So how we see it, that if your supply chain is resilient, your production and distribution systems can continue to function as well as is possible in a destabilizing event. So indeed, a key indicator of your operations resilience is the degree to which you can meet your obligations towards your customers despite disruptions, by consistently delivering goods and services against your cost, your quality, and your service levels. I've listed here a couple of actions to take and trends we see to make your supply chain more resilient. And later I will show 3 use cases how we've helped companies making the first steps in this supply chain resilience journey. The exercise could, or maybe even should, start with a thorough review of your current supply chain capabilities. This helps manufacturers understand where vulnerabilities are, where they exist, so you can prioritize corrective actions. The trend now we see a lot is that companies are looking how to diversify the supply base in the most optimal way. So having more partners to choose from provides manufacturers with alternative if certain suppliers can deliver due to a disruptive event, for example, like we currently see with the large lockdown, a very strict lockdown in Vietnam, which is really affecting all the fashion manufacturers. Other approaches include nearshoring to reduce the dependence on complex global logistic systems, to bring manufacturing for critical components closer by or even in-house. If alternate suppliers are not immediately available, a company should determine how much extra stock to hold in the interim period, in what form and where along the value chain. Of course, safety stock, like any inventory, right? It carries, with it the risk of getting obsolete, and also ties up cash. It runs counter to the traditional popular practice of just-in-time replenishment and lean inventories, but the savings for this strategy could really outweigh all the cost of a potential disruption. While manufacturers already have made strides since the pandemic, we clearly see that maybe missing further opportunities to reduce risk within their supply chains. In a recent research, just over 40% of the respondents are less than satisfied or even dissatisfied with the level of transparency the organization had into their supply chain during the pandemic. And there it all starts. If you don't know what's happening, then it's very difficult to make optimal decisions. So I guess these are just a couple of actions to take to building towards a more resilient supply chain. I guess most of it makes sense, and maybe you're already practicing some of them. If not, then all this question, okay, how to start, how to achieve, how to get there. Well, in moving from a more traditional cost-cutting supply chain to a resilient de-risking supply chain, advanced analytics could play a major role. Let me first explain what we actually mean by supply chain advanced analytics. Well, Gartner, the technology research and consulting company, have made quite a clear overview of the certain types of advanced analytics. I guess most of the people are familiar with historical analytics such as sales ratios, inventory turnover, number of stockouts, etc. These analytics we often call business intelligence. They provide insights into past performance. It's very important, but the information alone is not actionable. What's needed are forward-looking analytics, better known as advanced analytics. This allows you to predict what will happen with a surprising accuracy. They also let you determine answers to questions such as what are the required stock level needed to ensure business objectives are met, how to optimize revenue, how to optimize margin, etc. Predictive analytics leverage organizational data to predict future trends. So it's more about forecasting. And prescriptive analytics answers more the what-if questions to determine the best optimal supply chain planning decisions. That's also more about scenario planning. So, okay. The fourth form, the most recent one, added by Gartner, it's cognitive and artificial intelligence. It's defined as insights and recommendations based on self-learning, machine learning techniques or natural language processing capabilities. Now I will show 3 use cases, how we've helped companies making the first steps by developing and implementing an advanced analytics tool that supports them, well, generally speaking, and making fast, fact-based decisions, and also running what if scenarios. Okay. Yeah, the first one was a case from a fashion manufacturer, globally active. They were, well, basically facing the challenge to make better sourcing decisions. So they would like to make better fast sourcing decisions to solve the factory utilization, but maybe more important, to be able to deal with the current challenges. For example, now the lockdown in Vietnam, it had a huge impact on their sourcing landscape. The challenges they were facing how they were doing it in the old way. All the decisions to factories were made using a manual process, tribal knowledge, using tribal knowledge and Excel, resulting in a suboptimal output. So it lacks implementing de-risking constraints, it lacks scenario planning, and it was also very, very time consuming. So together with them, with the teams, we built an analytical scenario planning tool with results to, well, improve factory utilization, increase flexibility, reduce time spent to make the full plan, as well as short-term and long-term, and a reduction in cost. Furthermore, it also gives more visibility into cost and in, well, the capabilities of their partners. And well, actually, what's I think quite great that we can now really include all the de-risking constraints. So you can think about, for example, no supplier can have more than 30% of the total units, or a certain percentage of the total units must be allocated to strategic suppliers, or a certain percentage of total units must be co-located. So the garment factory and also the fabric mill must be located in the same region. So by including all these de-risking constraints and still having an optimal feasible plan, they can now really make steps forward. This is one example. Second one was for a brewery, Heineken, our proud Dutch brewery company. We worked together with them to build what we call a brewery capacity model. It's a cloud-based strategic decision support tool for production capacity to give updates for the capacity of the world and to manage their investment as optimally as possible, in short. So they had a very clear objective. Okay, we would like to answer any capacity question over the world within a few clicks. Again, they were using an Excel model. It was built 10 years ago by an intern. They did, well, great work, but Excel is Excel. So it really squeezed the juice out of Excel, and well, they were not able to manage the investments as optimally as possible with this error-prone tool. And it was really a huge effort to report on global level. So then they were receiving like 20 or 30 different Excel files, and then they had to combine everything, etc. So together with them, we built this, well, decision support tool. So all the countries in the world, they have access to the tool. They can log in, they can upload the data, and in the headquarters in the Netherlands, they have a total overview. So now they are better. Now they can better assess when it makes sense to make capacity investments. They can postpone capex as a result of this tool, sometimes millions of euros per year, simply by allocating production capacity in an optimal way, and they better understand where they need to ask production support from other operating companies in order, for example, to prevent lost sales. The last use case I would like to share. We work together with Arubis. Arubis, for more than 150 years, Arubis is producing copper and other metals. The company considers itself as a real multi-metal provider. And their objective was to manage the complexity in the production portfolio, planning the entire primary copper supply chain, considering all the technical restrictions and commercial constraints. So in recent years, the challenges came up because the complexity of materials is increasing, and at the same time, the technical processability and the associated added value of every step need to be determined even faster to be able to respond to the market environment. So with this integrated value-based planning model, it's increased revenue based on continuous portfolio optimization, workload reduction, and a joint workflow for purchasing and production planning. So this model is currently used in supply chain management to support value-based production planning and purchasing decisions. These are three examples, all different industries: fashion, heavy industry, F&B, global large companies. But don't get scared by the global large companies, right? So we also do a lot of work in the Netherlands for the very small companies. Already in a few weeks, if you have the mindset, if you would like to invest people, and if you would like to set up a project to try to see what's out there, how can analytics help you in making smarter, faster decisions, etc. Please give it a try. I would all invite you to do it. Also, the very large companies, it's not that they're only doing large projects. So for example, this fashion manufacturer, they define projects of 6 weeks. They say in 6 weeks, we would like to see results. If not, then we start another project. If we see results, then we continue. Well, this is what I would like to share. I hope it was a bit in 15 minutes. If there are any questions, please reach out via the chat or the and then more than I will try to answer. Thanks all for letting me have this, for letting me telling our experiences and the story.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation. It gives me now the honor to invite our next speaker, Mr. Bart Brink, Global Program Director of Digital Twin of Royal Housekeeping DHV, to give his presentation on how they can help you to realize a sustainable industry. Mr. Brink, please.
Thank you. Let's put up my slides, make sure that it works. Excellency, President of SMF, and of course, welcome all attendees, and an honor to share with you the next 15 minutes more about the topic of digital twins, demystifying, and how they help in realizing a sustainable industry. And I think my story will really align to one of the comments made by the President of the SMF in his opening talk about the importance of sustainability and the adoption by SMF of the Sustainable Development Goals. But before I do, a little bit about myself and my context. My name is Bart Brink. I'm working for Royal Housekeeping DHV for 16 years, and I'm currently heading up our global digital twin program across all sectors and regions we operate in. A little bit about the company context, helping you to understand which perspective we're talking from on this slide positions. And we are celebrating this Friday our 140th birthday as a company. So we are an employee-owned company, being around there for quite some time, also in the Asia region and also in the industry, with a strong footprint in industry and across multiple sectors. What is important next to our heritage and what we have been delivering for our clients over time from a engineering consultancy practice was a lot about designing and optimizing factories and supply chains from that regard, is that we extended from a strategy, our organizational capabilities with digital and digital services. And in that area, the digital twins is really for us a strategic topic where I want to elaborate on with you today and share not only what that concept is about, but also how to get going with it and share a couple of examples, but focus from the lens of sustainability. Digital twins can be also applied from a productivity perspective, from a supply chain resilience perspective, as Peter already elaborated on, but my focus will a little bit more on sustainability angle and how they come in there and can help you to be sustainable on the short and longer run. And that's, I think, the lens we need to look at this topic as well. I think on the left-hand side, you see the by now well-known sustainability development goals. And if you review them, you see that there are quite some SDGs mentioned that relate to how we deal with the physical environment around us. It's not only about sustainable cities and communities, but also, of course, how we deal with water, how we deal with energy, and how do we change the way we organize our value chains and supply chains with minimal impact. And finally, climate. Climate impact our industries have, how to deal with them. How do we deal with the pressure that goes to that? What is the impact on climate change on our supply chains? On the other hand, you see on the right-hand side that the way we organize our physical environment, and whether it's sites, whether it's supply chains, whether it's factories, whether it's buildings, etc., there is a continuous need to better use data. Not only on the left-hand side shown on the right-hand figure about how we manage the physical environment by operating it, by monitoring, control using data and optimize it. But we also see that we increasingly use data and information in the way we shape that physical world. And imagineering by using scenario analytics, etc., already in the design process. And the crux and the importance here is that we start using data collected in operations, also back to CAPEX, and start closing this infinity loop of continuous innovation. So I think there's an important need to better connect and close and use data in the way we shape, build, and optimize the physical environment around us. And in that regard, digital twins comes in. So what is then this concept of digital twins? And let me position it in a couple of sentences using this slide. I think most importantly to share with you is that the digital twins is for me really a concept. It's not a technology in itself. It's being fueled by technology, but the essence of a digital twin is that it gives us a virtual replica of the physical situation for two purposes. One purpose is to understand the physical world, to know what's happening at a certain moment in time, but not only to visualize it, but also give meaning to it, and to analyze it and say, hey, there is happening something, there is an alert, or etc. So I think that is one purpose of the digital twin, is to capture data and describe it. And that is where a lot of applications of digital twins are today. But I think that's not the only purpose of a digital twin, to understand what's happening. Yes, it gives you insight, it gives you information, and I will show a use case later on to elaborate on that. But more importantly, there is a second purpose of digital twins, and that's really shaping the physical world or supporting decision-making about how to adapt the physical world in the best way. And there you get into more advanced versions of digital twins, which is really about prediction. What if I would change this setting in this machine, or change the layout of my factory, or change the setup of my supply chain? What if? Simulating, predictive. Prediction is really in there. And on the other hand, it's about prescribing. Can software models, data models, information models, resource models help us to provide alternatives, advise us on what we can do best? And I think that's not per se new. We have been using simulation models and the like for ages. But what we see increasingly through the establishment of these kind of data-driven systems like digital twins, we increasingly do that more data-driven and are better to validate our assumptions using these vast amounts of data. And that brings me to the last part of a digital twin. So as a decision support tool as a second purpose, in the end, change something in the physical environment again. And change can be done automatically, machine to machine. But in a lot of cases, it will still be done by human intervention. Humans use this, the operators, managers in the factory environment can use digital twins and their data and insights, models and advices they provide to make the better informed decisions and changes settings in the physical world again. As I said, digital twins are not, in my view, a technology per se, but it's really built upon all kinds of technologies. And that's also one of the reasons why we see an emerge of digital twins in the market, because all the technologies outlined here are getting more affordable, are growing in quality, are being more and more adopted. And we increasingly see more the business value of doing so. And so this showcases a little bit of a couple of technologies you apply or use when you go on a digital twin journey and you build a digital twin of an asset system or supply chain or site. One element I briefly want to touch upon is the ER/VR element. It's about virtual reality, extended reality. So create a kind of 3D view on what's happening in my view, it is an important potential add-on of a digital twin, but not per se. A digital twin is not per se about that 3D representation. In a lot of cases, it's really useful to have an understanding what's happening, but sometimes just a simple dashboard can do the job as well. And so I think this most important message here is for digital twins, technology is fueling it, it's making it possible. But I think digital twins, in the way described in this presentation, are really a concept that brings that together. You can apply digital twins in all kinds of areas. Of course, digital twins are and have been out there for quite some time already, but often focus on equipment level or production line level, where we collect data, where we monitor performance according to certain KPIs. We get alerts when we see deviations from it, and we use simulations and AI-fueled algorithms to predict or optimize the setting of the production line. But increasingly, we see that digital twins go beyond that, not focusing just on the production line, but start looking at site level, at supply chain level, at country level. Not only in collecting data and showing it, 3D representation of the virtual Singapore is a good example in that regard, but also helping you to optimize and predict, especially if we go to sustainability for water, energy. This is important and needed because it's complex. There are a lot of factors that play a role in how you deal with energy, especially if you add renewables to the mix, if we become part of smart grids. And their digital twins really come in to help you to manage the data, get the relevant insights, and get the relevant answers to manage your business. Last but not least is the one on the right-hand side, climate resilience, which I think next to sustainability is a driving force, it's climate change. And also from that perspective, it is an impact how climate will impact the supply chains, flood risks, etc. And one of the areas we are heavily focusing on from RHDHV, from our knowledge about flooding, flood forecasting, coastal protection and the like, is digital twins for climate resilience and how to deal with that. And in that regard, we acquired a company. I took a majority interest in the company, to say it rightly, the Hydraulic Institute in Singapore 2 months ago. And there are a couple of challenges, though, if you're talking about this topic of digital twins, we need to look into. And one is about data. Data is important, but it's also the challenge to get the right data, the quality of the data. Have I access to the data? It doesn't sit with my OEMs or with my suppliers. What kind of agreements did I make about it? And most importantly, what is relevant data? It's not about big data. It's about data you want to have or need to know about to make the best decisions. Secondly is interoperability, which means how do you exchange data in the best way? Within a factory environment, but also across the supply chain with multiple stakeholders. And the development of standards and language, how we exchange that data, is an important topic in the market out there, which we need to find answers to. In my view, personally, people and culture are the most prominent and most challenging one. Because in the end of the day, we're not just replacing human factors with technology. No, we're enhancing peoples and experts with technology. And to do this, so they need to be educated and be upskilled in doing so. And so the whole human capital side, training, educating people how to deal with this new technology and get trust in it is crucial. So digital twins is also part of a change program. It's not just implementing a solution, it's a change, it's a transformation. Security and privacy always out there, especially when you move beyond just asset or factory level on one end. So if you get more to systems of systems, collecting multiple systems in a kind of ecosystem, but also if you do feedback into the machine, then it becomes critical that you are secure. And last but not least, problem or value versus tech driven. It all starts with what is my business question? What do I need to solve? What do I need to deal with? Where's my opportunity? And not with technology. Technology is just the means to a goal and help you to get to the right answer there. A couple of ways to start before I move to the examples. One is kind of that top-down approach. I think every industry is looking or need to look or started to look, have been looking into digital transformation and how data can help them to become more predictable, more resilient, more adaptive. And in my view, digital twins can be part of that. It can be what we have been working for. A couple of clients is really work on digital twin roadmaps, identifying what is digital twins means for you, your context. What are the steps to take on the journey? What are the guiding principles, etc. Another way is more bottom-up, I would say. You have an existing operations. What can I learn from that, from a monitoring control, gathering data, analyzing data I already have? And last but not least, and I think the increasingly more and more important opportunity is that when you start investing CapEx, investing in new facilities or really large brownfield developments, take digital twin thinking as part of that journey. Next to not only the physical design, but let's make sure that we design the physical and the digital environment in one go, really integrated in one way. To do so properly, I think a methodology is required. And I don't want to go too much in detail, but on the right-hand side, you see a business transformation framework we have been developing, have been using for 25 years to help over 300 clients to deal with this transition, which really is bringing together, okay, what I want to achieve from a business perspective? What does it mean for how I organize my business? What kind of data do I need and what is required for technology? Not only to defining the plan, but also managing the portfolio of change that comes from it. 3 examples briefly to say a little bit, okay, now sustainability, digital twins. Give me an example. And on the right-hand side, you see a little bit what part of the digital twin is focusing on. Is this the first example is in the high-tech industry. And I think this is quite a common case, but still worth sharing. And common from a perspective that is all about collecting data, analyzing data, and making it visible. And in this case, we looked at a couple of items, energy monitoring, service monitoring, regulation monitoring, utility monitoring. And just collecting this data and making it visible through Power BI and dashboarding already gives insight about what's happening in a complex environment like the high tech. It's sometimes easier said to do than done, because one of the challenges is access to data and how you deal with all kind of specific items in there. And so I think getting this foundation right and build up towards this dashboard of insights was already an important situation in this context. And what it helped with is that it gives not only the insights, but it also helped to better manage the business in that regard. Another one I want to share briefly is where we started not from the OPEX perspective, as the previous example, but went more from the CAPEX perspective. And this was a new facility in the UK, where Tyler wanted to build a new factory. And what we did do in this case, this instance, is that we not only designed the facility, but we modeled the whole business process in that facility using advanced simulation model technologies and our own in-house solution called Witness of a company called Lanner we acquired a couple of years ago. And what we really did is that we modeled in the design phase already, okay, what is the way of working in the factory? What are the key parameters in that? And how can we align the design of the factory with the business process in it? And how can we de-risk it? By using smart technologies like predictive simulation, we could de-risk the design, which helped in the end in getting a bankable business case. And we de-risked the CAPEX, we made it smarter and more efficient. But we didn't stop there. We then took this simulation model, which kind of a virtual factory environment, we connected it to time data source in the ERP system of the factory. Not all daily basis, but sometimes on a monthly or a yearly basis. Last example I want to share, which goes a little bit more beyond on the right-hand side, is Aquasheet. And Aquasheet is actually dealing with water and the quality of water and how we predict the quality of the water in the systems. This software has been used also in Singapore. PUB is an active user of this. But also in industry, we are seeing increasing needs to deal with complexity of water, quality of water, but also from a legislation and compliance, which is an important factor more and more. Sustainability is not only about making the difference with your own business, but increasingly there is a compliance element and the need to explain what you're doing and how you are performing. And there digital twins comes in, as this example shows here. So Aquasheet, which is really much more analytics and virtual operator of your wastewater treatment plant and related assets to that, has been applied in this industry context, taking over the advanced control of the anaerobic reactor. What this example brought us was a couple of things. One is we had to deal with the fact that there was not always sensor data available. So we introduced the concept of soft sensoring. So moderating what we expect based on our domain knowledge about water quality, what the behavior of that situation would be. And so soft sensoring is an important way to do so, to get relevant data. Back to my data quality point mentioned earlier. Secondly, we were able to do this in a continuous operation. So we didn't have to stop the water flow, the wastewater, having business continuity impact, where we were able to continue within. We didn't have to do CAPEX, we could just do on top of the existing operation, start implementing this virtual operator, get better insights, start better manage the system, get better insights from a compliance perspective. And at the end of the day, we saved in this case 1 to 2 million euros on the yearly OPEX, which is a significant benefit for the company, just on the water part of their operations in this food and beverage side, which is, I think, a relevant showcase. Now, having said it, to summarize my story in a couple of bullets, I think in our view, digital twins are on the rise. It's an important trend in the market and a powerful concept due to the fact that it brings together all these technology in a coherent manner. There are various ways to start from it. Take your digital transformation journey, top-down policy, corporate level thinking, but also in operations or when you build a new facility or large brownfields redevelopment. It's important to don't see digital twins just as a digital twin of something, of a pump or an asset, but see them more as a system which you gradually build up as part of your transformation, and where you look into interoperability, security, how you take people alongside the journey. And I think some examples are showed led to better financial bankability, in the hybrid Tyler case, brought down OPEX costs significantly. It led to business continuity from you could do it without interfering with the business too much or the operations. And last but not least, an important element for sustainability is be compliant, being able to explain what your business is doing and how you're performing against SDG goals. Now, what we do and where we help, as a rounding off slide, is that we have been building our digital business over the last couple of years, resulting to currently 300 people and providing this suite of services, ranging from consulting, helping clients with digital transformation, helping to build these digital twin examples like the high-tech manufacturing example, and last but not least on climate change, resilience related to flooding, climate resilience, and water treatment, and predictive simulation. Also deliver our own software solutions to help clients do this and make the change, and in the end realize a sustainable industry. Thank you for listening, and I will review the questions in the Q&A and happy to answer them there, or reach out based on the contact details on the screen.
Thank you, Mr. Bart Brink, for your interesting presentation. Now it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Edwin Garrison, business developer of Demcon Smart Machine Base, to come and inform us about his flexible and modular platform for high-end production automation. Edwin, please.
Hello, everybody. Let me share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, yeah, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of the program today. I'm glad to be here online with you, and it's good to see that many of you have found the time to participate. My name is Edwin Gerritsen. I'm a mechanical engineer by background, and I work as a business developer at Demcon Industrial Systems. And I would like to introduce you to our smart machine-based platform that we developed in the last years. So I'll be coming from the production angle in the presentation today. So maybe before we start, a couple words on the Demcon group. Our company is active in the area shown on the slide. We do this by developing, manufacturing, and supplying high-quality technology and innovative products. Our roots are in the semicon industry, where we started as a mechatronic design house. We work for companies like ASML, KLA, Applied Materials, and so on as a development partner. Over the years, our business has grown into different areas. And yeah, I would say that the development of medical devices for third parties represents quite a substantial part of our annual volume these days. Most of our engineering hubs are in Europe, but we also have an entity and a small team in Singapore since 2018 that we use as a stepping stone into Asia. For us, Singapore is a very attractive place to be because there are a lot of innovative companies in the semicon and in the medical industry for us to work with. I personally work for the industrial systems and automation business. So let's take a closer look at that. So at Industrial Systems, we develop and create innovative production technology, which means that my clients are always companies that are producing products. So what does that mean? We deliver custom production technology in 4 different market segments, with the medtech being a very important market segment for us. Our experience there ranges from high-speed, high-precision assembly systems to end-of-line test systems, bespoke production machinery, inspection tools, quality control tools, pilot production lines, and full volume production lines. Everything that has to do with production. Usually also with a lot of volume. Typically the products are disposable to have an attractive business case for the client. So what we noticed in the years of doing projects is that there's a lot of commonality in the systems that we deliver. We always have some sort of mechanical frame. We have doors, we have windows. On top of these generic functions, there are always sub-functions needed, like the safety aspects, electronical power supply, pressurized air. There's a lot required to make a custom machine, and we use this sort of functional decomposition to come up with with a standard starting point that we now use as starting point for our projects, both on the mechanical side, but also on the software side. So this is our smart machine base. It's a modular platform that we use as a starting point for automation projects. The modular approach allows us to join multiple systems together into a larger production system. Our clients can start with only a single module. We've paid special attention also to have a good and smooth integration of operator workplaces if needed, so that we can also during the startup phase work with operators, and then once the volume has grown on the client side, that we then replace that position by an additional module, and then the operator is not working on individual components anymore, but then they can be responsible for loading and offloading the machine with complete trays. We feel that this approach allows us to reduce cost, reduce lead time, and increase quality, because we only have to focus on the client-specific process. Here's another visual impression of our smart machine base. Like I said, it's available as a standalone system, but also as a long production line. We've developed a standard white-colored variant as well, in addition to the blue and gray examples that you see here on the slide. So in addition to the mechanical side of our approach, we also spend a lot of thought in the digital part. These days, production machinery comes with a lot of software. There are a lot of motors that you need to control. You need to transfer all the parts through the machine. You need to have an HMI to the client. You need to monitor and control everything that's going on a machine level. But in addition to that, we see more and more the need to not only connect our machines to traditional software suites like a MES system or an ERP system, but also to the more online smart production services. So that's why we have developed a cost-effective reference architecture that we can reuse from project to project and improve, so that we don't have to start developing software from scratch. We use a functional approach based on S88 and workflow according to PAC-ML standards for the people that might be familiar with that. And we have developed a standard HMI together with a group of users to ensure that we are displaying the most important data in a very convenient way. Our smart industry connections enable us and the client to use the latest technology on predictive maintenance, smart quality control, and digital twinning. We are able to send the data to public and private clouds for monitoring, analysis, and control. So how is this going to help you? With this technology, we can get more independent from the human experts that might have to do the evaluation whether or not a product is good. We are able to better handling the increasing system complexity that we see with advanced production systems these days. It gives us the opportunity and the client to react in real time on the disruptions in the production, and especially for 24/7 operations. That's very important. It gives us the opportunity to optimize the processes and the operations, and it helps us to reduce the human involvement, especially in remote and dangerous environments. All in all, it gives you a better product quality and a higher predictability. So what does this mean then in reality? I've brought two cases with me on this slide. On the left-hand side of the slide, you see a production system that we have on order for a client. We are building this system as we speak in our workshop. It's a high-speed, high-precision, vision-assisted assembly system that is used to assemble a diagnostic card that can be used for infection detection. Their technology is based on a very small microfluidicum chip that is made in silicium, and we are able to take this microfluidicum chip and assemble it in a plastic test card with the required alignment precision. And we can do that very fast with cycle time lower than 3 seconds. The system is equipped with laser marking to write a QR code to the product. Everything the machine is done is registered in an electronic batch record. We have integrated vision-based quality control, so that we can proactively inform the client if there are issues with the component batches that are coming in. The system is clean room compatible, and also very important for this client, using the connectivity smart box of our software, we were able we are able to connect it to the client's software environment. On the right-hand side, we see a different project. This is a system that is used to, to coat needles and catheters and to apply an acoustic reflective coating to the product. This improves the ultrasound visibility of the needle, and it helps medical specialists to perform procedures. And here again, it's very important that we have a very complete control of everything that's happening in the machine, that we are able to detect errors, that we check all the components that are coming in visually, and that we report that and document that in an electronic batch record, and also connect that to the client systems. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. I trust that I've given you an overview of our capabilities and how we make the link to a production system and the all the new technology that's available in the cloud with respect to smart productions. So if you have any questions after the meeting, then feel free to contact me.
As we heard from the three speakers, there are a lot of opportunities in Netherlands in areas of digitalization. More importantly, we noted that Netherlands is well known for its innovation as well as its technologies. So the country of Netherlands will be of interest to a great many of our enterprises who would like to find out about how to do business and enter to Netherlands. So coming up now, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Adeline Tan, Area Director of Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency. She will present to you the important subject of how you can leverage on Netherlands as your gateway to Europe because of its many good incentives as well as its recognition as the hub for innovation in EU. Adeline, please.
Thanks, Emmeline. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Thanks, Emmeline, for the introduction, and great to have everyone in this session. So I'm Adeline, representing the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency here in Singapore. I think today's webinar's main theme is really growth, and I'm very excited to be able to be here to share with all of you what are some of the, let's say, key decision-making factors that companies have when thinking about expansion into the EU, and they do it from the Netherlands. So a little bit about us. I have been with the team for the last 15 years. So would like to also really share some of the questions that companies have whenever they think about an expansion policy. The Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency, we're part of the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy, so we're 100% government. And what we do is to really assist you with providing of information, connecting to networks. Pre-COVID, we do a lot of fact-finding trips for companies, introducing them to the local ecosystem. Right now, of course, we're able to do that digitally. And of course, as government agency, our services are provided on a complimentary, confidential, and no obligation basis. We're not able to engage in business development, also because we work with a lot of companies from similar industries. I think many of the companies here are very familiar with the Singapore Economic Development Board. So on the side of the Dutch government, that's also what we do, inbound Netherlands work. So I'd like to give you a bit of a snapshot on the types of companies that we have assisted last year. So to bring your attention, in the midst of the pandemic, we still had about 300 over foreign companies or international companies. choosing to locate themselves in the Netherlands for the European market. Good to note that in line with the theme of today's webinar, IT makes up a very big sector for that. And of course, the sector of IT is large. You have the fintech, even agri-tech these days fall under IT. And I think very interesting to note that companies, many companies are also coming from our region. You will see that Asia ranks number 3 in terms of origin of companies. So in terms of working culture, way of doing business, there is a lot of comfort, and especially for the Dutch and the Singaporeans, there's a lot of similarities, like what the ambassador and also Mr. Douglas Fu earlier mentioned. This is a snapshot of some of the Singaporean companies that have already established an entity in the Netherlands for their European operations. You will see a couple of things to take out of these slides. You will see that the companies range from the medium-sized enterprises to the larger corporates. Also, they come from very diverse industries. You will see quite a number of maritime related companies. We have data centers in there, also companies dealing in the field of sustainability. So it's a very wide range of companies. This list is not exhaustive, but we're looking at around 200 Singaporean companies currently based in the Netherlands. So today, I'd like to share what some of these companies are thinking about when they decide to actually set up a local team. I think in the last 2 years with the pandemic, it's easy to think that companies are actually scaling back on their expansion plans. But contrary to that, we speak with a lot of our current investors here in Singapore and in the region. I'm responsible also for Australia and New Zealand. Like what a lot of our previous speakers have mentioned, logistics is a very big part of a business. Costs are rising. Just very recently, we had a news article about the semiconductor industry. I think there's also a lot of pressure in terms of the logistics supply chain. We have seen, and companies have also feedback that teams that actually have local establishment on the ground have really done comparatively well the last 2 years as compared to companies that do not. So due to the travel restrictions the last 2 years, companies that do have local teams are really able to continue with efforts to meet with their customers and also to ensure there is continuity in the business flow. So the 6 unique selling points that we have are strategic location, international business climate, good logistics, infrastructure, excellent cost of living, excellent quality of life, average cost of living, competitive fiscal climate, and of course, talent-wise, a very highly skilled, productive, and multilingual workforce. Now, on paper, these 6 points are actually also the points that a lot of countries have. And I always say the devil is in the details, so I like to go straight into them. So you would know that the gateway to Europe, the Netherlands is very strategically positioned for that. What this means for companies is that you gain access to your clients in as short a time as possible. And this is possible because of the strong infrastructure that we already have. So you would see that Schiphol Airport, one of the best passenger airports in Europe. We have the main ports of Rotterdam and Amsterdam in the Netherlands itself. And of course, Rotterdam has undergone an expansion project a couple of years back. So also able to receive larger vessels. We see a lot of developments ongoing to further enhance the infrastructure. The regulations support that as well. In the Netherlands, we have a very efficient Dutch customs. Some of you might know already that when you bring in your products into the EU via the Netherlands, we have a very good VAT deferment program, which is excellent for companies in terms of monitoring your cash flow. This is also the reason why we see a lot of companies with physical products choosing to use the Netherlands as their gateway. These days, we don't talk only about physical infrastructure. we cannot talk about connectivity without touching about digitalization. The Netherlands ranks extremely high in that sense. This is supported also by the fact that we do have many data centers in the Netherlands. In Singapore itself, Capital T&T owns 2 data centers as well in the Netherlands. In terms of speed of connectivity, stability, the Netherlands leads the way in that. This is also the reason why we have a very strong security cluster in the Netherlands. Also tech companies that are able to benefit from this digital infrastructure. Another aspect that businesses think about, although having is taxation. Although having said that, a lot of them do look at the business case first, but it's also good to note that in Western Europe itself, the Netherlands has a very competitive and tax neutral system. With Singapore, we do have a lot of tax treaty agreements in place. And of course, one of them is the avoidance of double taxation agreement. Companies also explore using the Netherlands for their European activities, especially for the very positive and low withholding tax rates we have in terms of repatriating of profits and dividends from the Netherlands back to the parent company here in Singapore. So in terms of corporate tax rates, we are also extremely competitive within the EU itself. Now, international business climate, this is something that many people pay attention to. And for this study, I definitely have to highlight Singapore because Singapore comes first. But I think very good to note that the Netherlands is extremely competitive in Western Europe. What this means and what this translates into for companies is that the style of working is very similar. The speed, the response speed, the way of thinking, the very straightforward way of doing business, stability in terms of government policies. These are aspects that Singaporean companies are used to here. They can also enjoy that in the Netherlands. So in terms of operating in Europe, the Netherlands is a very good platform for that. Now, one of the larger concerns that companies have when they're looking at expansion is always availability of talent. Now, in that respect, it's not also only about the availability, but having the right talent on the ground. So in the Netherlands, we rank first worldwide in terms of language skills. And what this means is that when you hire somebody in the Netherlands, and I think the rest of the speakers can attest to that, everyone speaks English in the Netherlands. Also, it's very easy to pick out somebody who can speak 1 or 2 other European languages. So what we see here in Singapore, we do have many companies setting up their marketing and sales activities in the Netherlands, but of course with a much target audience, including key markets like Germany, Italy and France, but they are able to find the right talent in the Netherlands to also handle these markets. So language skills comes in very handy. Skilled labor is readily available. We're talking these days a lot about the technical talent. One of the reasons why skilled labor is readily available is also due to the fact that the Netherlands is a very attractive location for talent to come to work and live in. And this brings me to my next slide. We have a very good quality of life in the Netherlands. Due to the issue of Brexit, we have seen in the last couple of years, due to also topics of market access, people moving even from the UK to the Netherlands. There's very good work-life balance. And of course, this impacts the company's operation when you're looking to send people from your existing team to work and live in the Netherlands. So good to know that quality of life is good. Cost of living is remains average, although I think key cities around the world are seeing increase in, let's say, rents. This is the same in Singapore, but overall on a global basis, it's still extremely manageable. So I hope this gives you a snapshot of some of the aspects that companies think about when they want to expand in Europe. And we always talk about Europe because Europe is a big market, but for hub countries like the Netherlands, we do have a lot of policies and also very good ecosystem for companies to base and locate their operations in. Today it's a very short session, so we could only present to you a snapshot. These are our contact details. We're always very happy to speak on a one-on-one basis with you, should you like to explore further.
Thank you very much. We have now come to the Q&A question. There are some questions, and in view of time, I shall now ask my colleague to flash the questions, and I will invite the panelists here to answer the questions that pertain to their specialty. So can we flash the questions? Okay. There are a few questions that have come out. So the first question is, how can Singapore SMEs and Netherlands SME work together? Maybe I can direct this question to Adeline to answer, and the other speakers to add on their views later on. Adeline, would you like to answer?
Sure. So how can Singapore SMEs and Dutch SMEs work together? I think so far what we have seen, there are a couple of initiatives going on. I believe the EEN network also presents a very good platform to do that. We have seen a couple of examples. So this is in the field of technology. So we have seen Dutch companies tap on the expertise of Singapore companies and then coming here for the region, and the other way as well. Singaporean companies are really working together with a Dutch entity and then working together with them to target the EU market. Now, a couple of things would be joint R&D. They're very good incentives in both countries to support that. So I think that's one very interesting aspect that we are seeing more and more companies take up and explore. So that's in terms of R&D. Joint ventures, we're also seeing more of that. So I think I would say the ways and form are plenty. EEN presents an extremely good platform to also find out which are the companies in very complementary field and skill sets as your companies. But I think for any of you that do have a specific interest, please feel free to reach out to us. NFIA, we sit within the larger embassy team. So we also have colleagues dealing with different aspects, and we'll be happy to see how best we can help you.
How about the rest of the other speakers? Would you like to add how your company can facilitate the collaboration between the Netherlands companies, SMEs at your end, and Singapore SMEs? Any other speakers would like to add on their views?
No, I think from my end, it's important to mention that although the examples sometimes look from big, large companies, a lot of them, let's take the hybrid Tyler example in my case, are done with SME kind of companies. So I think there's not that digital transformation and digital technology in itself is limited to only larger corporates. I think it's getting into the phase that best practices are getting there, off-the-shelf solutions are there, which makes the technology and the potential of the technology much more accessible to SMEs as well, as it was compared to a couple of years ago, still in its early days, and there was a lot of R&D unknown and not proven in it. And so I think when the market matures more and more, the market gets more open and ready and also available to the SMEs, from best practices, off-the-shelf solutions, proven technologies, which I think from an SME perspective is really beneficial because that de-risks the time they need to learn from it and adopt it.
Okay. So let me go on to the question 2. Okay, somebody else one of the speakers wanted to add something to the question 1? If not, let me proceed to question 2, which is increasing your intermediate inventory increases your risk of capital consumption and stagnant cash flow. Wouldn't this increase your supply chain risk? Isn't decentralizing a more viable solution? And I shall ask Peter to answer this question.
Yeah, thanks, Emmeline. Yeah, so we actually, Bart and I, we already answered some questions during the last minutes. Can be seen in the Q&A. So maybe given the time, we can go quickly through these. Yeah, correct. Yes, intermediate inventory, like any inventory, carries the risk of getting obsolete and ties up cash. However, the savings from those practices have to be weighed. So you have to be able to make a data-driven decision against the cost of disruption, including lost revenues, higher prices, etc. So by implementing a scenario planning tool, answering what-if questions, then you are really able to make this trade-off. So it is indeed the trade-off, okay, carrying higher inventory versus what if we have a disruptive event, and are you able to answer these questions? These questions well. But I think we can maybe, Emmeline, for the other ones, maybe we can focus on the open questions given the time.
Okay, so the next question is, what stage in the transformation journey would you find most businesses today? Who would like to answer this question? One of the panelists, please.
Yeah, I think as we both Peter and I commented on in the chat already, essence it's quite scattered, and better companies are on the move, especially in the last 2 years. So in the last 2 years, you see increased adaptation of digital and data, and they started a digital transformation, but also starting in various parts of their business. So it's often focused on administrative processes, on operational level, increase the OEE level, start monitoring that. If you look to the more advanced versions like predictive and prescriptive, then it's really in the first steps. And there's a lot of buzz around it. But if you actually look at the real best practices, that's growing. The World Economic Forum publishes every year Lighthouse projects that is gradually growing. But I think it's still to be honest, digital transformation, it's an ongoing transition, and a lot of companies are still in their early days, which is what it is. So there's a lot of potential to gain, I would say.
Okay, I think the number 4, number 5, and number 6, you all have answered directly to the companies that have raised this. Which any of you would like to add on before I move down this? Raquel, can you move the question further down? And further down so that you can. And to answer this open question, there's one open question here. What are some of the biggest roadblocks that mid-sized businesses face along the journey of transitioning? That is from Singapore to Netherlands.
Yeah, Emily, maybe I can take that. So I think in the last 15 years of my time in NFIA, talking to companies, this is one of the questions that we get a lot. So what are some of the largest challenge? Sometimes companies think, is it the way of doing business? The administrative part, very straightforward. The largest roadblock or obstacle, I would say, is really in terms of getting the right hire in starting up the operations. And I think this is something that a lot of the business owners would hold very dear to their hearts as well when you do set up a new operation. I have seen companies succeed in and scaling the team from a 5-PAX team to let's say 10-PAX team the next year. I have also seen companies start out with 2-PAX and then really not being able to progress the next couple of years. The question then is it because of the lack of customers? Is it the go-to-market strategy? But truth be told, it's always the first few hire that you have in the entity. So this is something that we try and help companies with in terms of finding the right people on the ground through connecting you to local recruitment agencies. And also, one of the things that the Netherlands has is that we have a very good highly skilled migrant scheme or immigration scheme that allows you to send people to work and live in the Netherlands. The so-called expats that you bring to the Netherlands, for the first 5 years, they are able to get a 30% tax allowance deduction. So this is a bit the offsetting the relocation cost for an employee from our perspective. So talent, getting the right people to start the company in the Netherlands is one thing that companies should pay attention to. And of course, another question that I get a lot is really a chicken and egg question. Should I have more clients before I set up an entity, or should I set up the entity first to get more clients? This question is, the answer to this question is very unique to each company. But having said that, the challenge is that if you do not have a local entity, in today's times, companies want to do business with people that they know, even more so today because networking opportunities are limited. So it's very difficult to break into the market. I have seen companies make the decision to set up the entity in order to execute their go-to-market strategy. A reason being it's easy to set up an entity in the Netherlands. Everything is in English. The language of business is English. So we have seen companies take that step in order to execute the go-to-market strategy. So I hope this gives you a little bit of an insight, but I'm always happy to continue the conversation after this session.
Thank you, Adeline, and thank you to all the other speakers. Thank you very much for your presence here today. In view of the, we have overrun, so in view of the time, now I will now end the this webinar. Let's give the round of applause to all the panelists and the speakers. Cam. As you can see from the this our program, can you show the program to all the participants here? Okay, as you can see from the program, if should you have please show the program. Or the contact details. Teresa, who? Teresa, please show the program. This. If you can see, I request all the participants take a look down. Follow-up actions, please contact this email address. The other email that you have been given is this Adeline one. Adeline, would you like to repeat the email contact that you have given in your slides?
Yes, let's see. Yeah, I think if I share my screen, it will block yours, but you can all find us on LinkedIn, or just go to the website investinholland.com and you will see our details online as well.
Okay, so there are two contacts you can contact. The embassy via what Adeline has mentioned, the Facebook plus the Invest Holland, as well as the SMF one, where you will see that there's a global business. So we welcome participants to come and contact us. As mentioned earlier on by my SMF president, Mr. Douglas Fu, the SMF is committed to help companies to collaborate and work with Netherlands companies, and we encourage all Singapore companies to contact SMF because our Enterprise Europe Network will be very pleased to help you to find suitable partners in Netherlands for your business. So without taking any further time, let me thank all the participants and all the speakers for your presence here today. Thank you, participants, for coming here. And we, SMF, remain open to hearing from you and we are very pleased to be able to engage with you in this webinar as well as going forward. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Stay well and stay healthy. So I will now end the webinar. Thank you.